For the latest Patriots news, updates, and game talk, let's get started.
Let's talk about the Stefon Diggs deal, 3 years, $63.5 million from the Patriots, and why it's generating so much heat. On paper, it looks like a high-stakes swing. Diggs is a big name, no doubt, and the Patriots clearly wanted to inject some star power into their offense. But critics are calling this reckless, and they've got a case. First, the injuries. Diggs hasn't been the most durable recently, and there are real questions about whether he can still perform at that elite level. Then there's the production drop. His numbers have dipped, especially late in the season. Is that just age catching up, or a bigger sign of decline? Add in the off-field noise, including his highly publicized relationship with Cardi B and that viral boat video, and it starts to feel like the Patriots paid top dollar for more drama than upside. This deal was supposed to energize the fan base and the locker room. Instead, it's raising eyebrows across the league. If Diggs doesn't hit the ground running, this contract could go down as a major misfire. Asterisk, yeah. And what's really fueling the backlash isn't just the contract size, it's the context. You're talking about a team in transition with a new coaching regime and a young quarterback room. So giving $63.5 million to a 30-year-old receiver, one who's shown flashes of frustration and inconsistency, feels out of step with a long-term rebuild. Diggs has never been shy about expressing himself, which can be a strength in the right environment. But when you mix in his past locker room tensions and some questionable optics off the field, like the Cardi B headlines in that pink substance boat clip, it's fair to wonder if the Patriots just introduced more volatility than value. The optics matter, especially in a place like New England, where the franchise has long been known for its Patriot way. Tight culture, no distractions, production over personality. This deal feels like a sharp pivot if it clicks. It's a masterstroke. If not, it's a cap-heavy burden with media noise attached. Right now, a lot of folks are betting on the latter. Asterisk, right? And it's not just outside voices questioning this. Even some folks around the league are privately saying the Patriots overreached here. They're paying Diggs like he's still a top 5 receiver, when realistically, he hasn't played like one down the stretch of the last 2 seasons. Let's be honest. This wasn't a quiet offseason for him either. There was the boat video, the relationship buzz with Cardi B, cryptic social media posts. For a franchise that used to fine players for untucked jerseys, it's wild to now be embracing a player who brings a lot of brand and baggage. And from a roster construction standpoint, it's head-scratching. The Patriots are still figuring out their quarterback situation. You've got a rookie competing with 2 unproven backups, and now you drop a high-priced veteran who demands targets and attention into that mix? That's pressure they might not be ready for. It feels like the Patriots are trying to buy a shortcut back to relevance, but with a 31-year-old receiver whose best years may be behind him, that shortcut could turn into a dead end pretty fast. Asterisk, exactly. And when you look at the numbers, the risk becomes even clearer. Over $14 million guaranteed in year 1 and a structure that limits flexibility if it doesn't work out quickly. That's a huge bet on a guy whose production dipped late last season and who's now entering his 10th year in the league. And look, no one's denying Stefon Diggs has talent. At his peak, he's one of the most technically gifted receivers in football. But this isn't 2020 anymore. He's dealt with nagging injuries, a visible drop in separation rate, and frankly, some locker room drama in both Buffalo and Minnesota. This is now 2 franchises that moved on from him despite his numbers. That should say something. The bigger issue here is identity. What are the Patriots trying to be? Because this move sends a mixed message. On one hand, they're rebuilding. With young pieces like Drake May and a new coaching staff under Vrabel, on the other, they're handing out $63.5 million to a veteran who might not be around when the team is ready to compete. It reeks of desperation, a splash signing to generate buzz in a post-Brady, post-Belichick era. But buzz doesn't win games. Chemistry, timing, and consistency do. And right now, there's no guarantee Diggs brings any of that to Foxborough. Asterisk, and let's not forget the off-field noise. The Cardi B situation, whether fans think it's a distraction or not, it becomes part of the narrative. Fair or not, it draws attention away from football, especially when you're handing a guy that much money. You want leaders, tone setters, especially for a young locker room with a rookie quarterback. What message does this send? Plus, the Patriots aren't a receiver away from contention. This isn't Kansas City or San Francisco where you plug in a veteran and go chase a ring. They're rebuilding. Every dollar counts. That $63.5 million could have been spread across depth, offensive line insurance, or even bolstering the secondary. I get trying to help May, giving him a target, but there's a difference between support and overreach. Diggs is a name. He's not a solution. This deal feels more like branding than football, and in New England, that's a problem. Asterisk, for all the noise surrounding the Patriots this offseason, the Stefon Diggs drama, coaching changes, retirements, what's quietly brewing is something we haven't seen in a while. Genuine momentum on defense, and not just flashes. We're talking about structure, energy, and for once, belief. That's coming straight from the top, thanks to Mike Vrabel. Vrabel's influence is already visible. You talk to anyone around Foxborough, and they'll tell you, the linebacker room has life again. Players are flying around with purpose, something that was sorely lacking last season. The communication is tighter, the reps are sharper, and you're starting to see a culture take hold. Not one built on slogans, but on accountability and intensity. And look, keep an eye on Milton Williams. Not only is he holding up his end on the field, but he's starting to lead vocally, which this team desperately needs. Barmore's still anchoring, and there's real depth emerging up front. You combine that with a healthy Christian Gonzalez and a retooled secondary. That's a unit with real potential. Don't get me wrong, they're not there yet. Rookies like Will Campbell still have a lot to learn, and there are chemistry questions with so many new faces. But what you saw in minicamp wasn't just effort, it was intention. A team trying to punch its way back into relevance the only way New England ever really has. With defense first, analysts are right to be cautious, but the early signs? They're not just encouraging, they're a reason to pay attention. Asterisk, here's the thing. When you zoom out on everything going on, in New England right now, there's this temptation to focus on the noise. Stefon Diggs, the contract, the off-field headlines. But if you're really watching closely, something much more interesting is happening underneath all that. A cultural reset. And at the center of it is Mike Vrabel. This isn't lip service. The difference is palpable. You talk to veterans, rookies, assistant coaches, there's a tone being set that hasn't existed here in years. Maybe since the last days of the Brady-Belichick era, Vrabel's not trying to be Belichick, he's not trying to be a player's coach either. What he is doing is bringing clarity about roles, about expectations, about identity, and the defense is where that clarity is showing up first. Let's talk about that front seven. Christian Barmore looks like he's finally getting the freedom to be a disruptor. He's not just clogging lanes, he's attacking, driving the line of scrimmage backward. Milton Williams, who was maybe a question mark when they brought him in, is now becoming a glue guy. Reliable, tough, and quietly one of the more versatile pieces on that line. And then you've got Christian Gonzalez. Don't underestimate what it means to get a player like that back fully healthy. He was electric before the injury. A true lockdown corner in the making. Pairing him with a more stable scheme, better communication on the back end, and a few more safety net veterans in that DB room could turn this into a top 10 secondary fast. Now, I'll say this, it's not just about the names. It's about the cohesion. You watch a few reps from minicamp and you'll see linebackers communicating pre-snap in a way they weren't last year. You see young guys like Mart Mapu taking command of their assignments. Jihad Campbell, even though he's sidelined post-surgery, is glued to every walkthrough. That matters. That's Vrabel's culture taking root. And yeah, we can go back and forth on the Diggs signing. Is it worth the money? Does it create a distraction? Will he even finish the contract? Fair questions. But Vrabel isn't letting the locker room spiral around one headline. What he's doing is putting football first again. Real football where defense wins games. Discipline defines effort, and young guys are actually allowed to develop. Let's be honest, New England isn't contending this year, but that doesn't mean they're irrelevant. In fact, if this defense stays healthy and this culture continues to crystallize, they're going to punch a few playoff hopefuls in the mouth this season. They'll be the team no one wants to play in November. That's how you rebuild with purpose, not with flash, with toughness, cohesion, and leadership. And right now, that leadership wears a headset and used to wear no 50. Here's what people keep underestimating. The Patriots aren't just trying to rebound from a bad season. They're trying to rebuild an entire identity. And the shift we're seeing now, it's real. You can't fake being, and you're starting to see it across the roster, especially on defense. That side of the ball is quietly turning into a strength again. You hear Zach Bond talk about how the defense is miles ahead of where they were last year. That's not coach speak. That's a player seeing structure, accountability, and actual progress. And that kind of growth isn't just about scheme, it's about leadership. Vrabel's presence isn't just symbolic, it's functional. Guys trust him. They respond to him, and that matters, especially for a roster that's still young in key spots. Look at the trenches. Barmore and Milton Williams are growing into real anchors. They're not just chasing stats, they're setting the tone. The linebackers faster, sharper, more instinctive. That group was lost last season. Now, they're communicating like a unit that knows what it's doing. And in the backfield, Gonzalez being healthy changes everything. He's got lockdown ability, and you can build around that. And here's something no one's talking about: versatility. You've got edge guys who can drop, safeties who can cover in the slot. This is the kind of hybrid, fluid defense Vrabel thrives. With it's not about stars, it's about reliability and execution. That's how they're building it now. Are there still holes? Of course. The offense is a question mark. Diggs brings headlines but also risk. You've got rookies in key roles and a quarterback situation that's still stabilizing. But don't let that distract you from what's happening on defense. Because when that side clicks, and it looks like it's getting close, it gives the entire team a floor, a foundation, and if you've been around long enough, you know this. In New England, defense has always been the heartbeat. Looks like that heart is starting to beat again. Asterisk, let's just be honest about where the Patriots are, not in the standings, but in their DNA. After the post-Brady years, after the departure of Belichick, after the swirl of quarterback questions, failed coordinators, and a revolving door of underwhelming weapons, this franchise wasn't just rebuilding a roster, it was rebuilding its soul. And what we're seeing now, slowly but unmistakably, is a shift back to identity football. The kind of football that made New England a dynasty. That shift starts and ends with defense. And it's being led by a man who used to bleed for it on Sundays, Mike Vrabel. This isn't about nostalgia. It's not about slapping a familiar name on a headset and hoping the magic returns. It's about functional leadership. Vrabel brings credibility, toughness, and a bottom-line mentality that this team has sorely lacked. And here's what's interesting. It's already working quietly, methodically, especially on the defensive side. Let's take a hard look at the defensive front. Christian Barmore is becoming more than just a flash play disruptor. He's anchoring this line. He's commanding double teams, showing improved hand technique, and playing with more control. Beside him, Milton Williams is emerging as the glue guy, not flashy, but reliable, physical, and smart. The kind of player who lets stars play like stars. You need those guys if you want a sustainable front seven. But this isn't just about individual performances. It's about cohesion. You watch this defense now, and you see communication.